Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever-so-slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, June 29th, 2025, and this is show number 1051. Well, my nose is feeling much better, and Steve says I don't hardly scare the children away in the streets anymore. And I really thank everyone for the well wishes to make sure that I'm recovering well. I definitely got super lucky. I still don't understand how I didn't crack my skull or break my neck. I literally landed only on my nose and a little bit on my left elbow, and everything else, didn't touch it. My glasses didn't even get scratched. So I'm not quite sure why I got so lucky, but I'm counting my blessings. We're doing a bunch of traveling in the next month or a little bit more. We're going to be going to Macstock, and you should all go to Macstock, and you should use the code PODFEET to get $50 off of your ticket, and I get a kickback on that too. You should definitely do that. I'm going to try to get the show out the Wednesday or Thursday before we leave, so you should get an early show rather than a late show. No guarantees, but that's what I'm going to try to do. And then we're going to be going on a full week vacation in August, and a bunch of people have been stepping up, getting me some content so that I'm going to be able to do the shows and not have to skip vacation, and also not have to impose on Jill and Alistair and Bart to help me out. So a lot of people are coming out of the WordWork. If you've still got something you want to contribute, it would be fantastic. And I really appreciate everybody who's helped so far. But if you still got something to record, I'd sure appreciate it. Last week on the NosillaCast, Bart came on the show to talk about the app Raindrop.io that he's fallen in love with to replace Pocket as a bookmark manager. Now, I knew Bart was going to be on the show to talk about Pocket and his replacement when I heard Tom Merritt talk on the Daily Tech News show about how bereft the user community was about the demise of Pocket. He mused that he hoped there was a good alternative. Now, I could have told Tom that Bart might have the answer, but I'm far too selfish, and I kept the content just for us. Imagine my delight when I heard Tom introduce Bart on DTNS 5047 on Wednesday, June 25th, to talk about Raindrop.io. So I'm really glad he probably heard the podcast and then knew that Bart had the answer and got it. I should have given it to him earlier, but I didn't. I saved it for us. Anyway, nothing's better than hearing my two good friends chatting. If you're not already listening to DTNS, you are in for a treat. This episode is hosted by Tom and the awesome Jen Cutter, and partway through, they bring on Bart. Definitely look for Daily Tech News Show 5047 to hear Bart talking about Raindrop again. Today, I'm going to give you part one of Steve and my adventures embracing even more of the products Eufy have to offer. When Wise proved to be incapable of doing security correctly, we replaced all of our indoor cameras with the ones from Eufy. But now, let's talk about doorbells. Shortly after Ring came out with the first popularized video doorbell, Steve and I decided to get one. The first thing we noticed was that while it gives us a great picture of anyone standing at the front door, it doesn't show anything below shin height. That meant it didn't show us any packages left on the doorstep. After a year and a half of being annoyed by this, in 2017, Steve designed and built an ingenious mirror attachment to the Ring doorbell so that we could view the doorstep on the video. If you want to read all of the details on his ingenious design, you can read the article entitled Ring Video Doorbell Mirror Mod Allows You to See the Doorstep. Link in the show notes, of course. He bought one of those convex mirrors people stick to the rearview mirrors to give them a wider angle of view. He stuck that to a piece of plastic which he connected to the top of the Ring doorbell. With the mirror at the correct angle, the camera can now see the doorstep. Now, we liked his design, and it served us relatively well, but it has a big flaw. At night, when the infrared camera is in use, it reflects off of the convex mirror and just blows out the image. All we see is a big white blob. And the spiders also simply love the overhang of the mirror as a swell place to build their webs. But we lived with it. A few months ago, though, I went to listener Lynn's house to bring her some simply awful cake I'd baked. She's really good at baking, and I wanted her to agree with me that mine was terrible. She took the recipe and recreated it, so when I arrived, we actually had 3 versions of this cake. She baked two different ways. They were all bad, proving it was a bad recipe, but I take pride in the fact that mine was the worst of the batch. After chatting with her husband, Gary, about whether I thought Apple would ever come out with a 27-inch iMac with an Apple Silicon chip, telling him sadly no they weren't, I left their house. But as I walked out, I noticed she had a video doorbell, but not one I recognized. Big nerd, she and I dug into the tech specs of her doorbell. It was from Eufy, and what sold me on it was it has not one, but 2 cameras. The second camera is dedicated to looking downward at packages. How cool is that? Now, I procrastinated pulling the trigger on replacing our Ring with the Eufy dual camera doorbell until it was time to pick up my birthday present this year. I knew this would be fun for Steve too, not only because he was annoyed about the lack of visibility of packages at night, but because he likes playing with electrical wiring. Now, while I normally try to buy IoT devices every time from a different company to ensure our network is as complicated as possible, choosing Eufy wasn't the worst idea. When we replaced our indoor Wise cams with Eufy, we chose the HomeKit-compatible Indoor Cam C120s for most locations, along with one Indoor Cam C220 pan and tilt camera. Now, it's important to note that not all cameras from Eufy are HomeKit-compatible, so choose carefully if that's important to you. The video quality on both of these camera types is 2K, but if you put them in HomeKit Secure Video, it lowers the resolution to 1080p. They still look great, and the Eufy software worked well to set them up. Now, it was time to pick out a Eufy dual camera doorbell. Took Steve a lot of research to narrow down the doorbell cameras because they have so many models. But in the end, he chose the $150 Eufy E340 doorbell, which can be wired or battery powered. We actually only paid $120 for the E340 doorbell because we bundled it with another Eufy device, but that is a story for another day. It's important to note that none of the 2-camera Eufy video doorbells are HomeKit compatible. The Eufy E340 doorbell was an absolute dream to add to our network. You first scan the QR code on the back of the Eufy doorbell with the app on your phone. Then you press the sync button on the doorbell, and then the doorbell's camera asks to scan a QR code back in the Eufy app on the iPhone. And then boom, you're done. I know that sounds like a lot of back and forth, but you're just scanning a QR code with the phone, and then the doorbell scanning its QR code back on the phone, and the two have the conversation, and it actually works. Now, when we were setting this up, we took a ton of screenshots in anticipation of being able to document exactly when in the process it became hell on earth, but it never did. It was glorious. Now, the configuration of the dual camera video is super fun. By default, the camera gives you a split view. You see the person in the top 75% of the view, and below their shins, you see the doorstep as the bottom 25%. So it's kind of like they've got a missing band in their shins. You can also put the camera, though, in picture-in-picture view. The picture-in-picture view defaults to showing the person in the big image and then the doorstep in a tiny image in the bottom right-hand corner. On the picture-in-picture view, you can swap the 2 images by tapping a little button. Unfortunately, that little button is also in the bottom right, so that means you can't see your packages by default because the package image is down in the bottom right. Luckily, in the controls, you can move the little picture to one of the other 3 corners. We put it in the upper left, and now it works great to swap back and forth between those 2 views. Eufy has a setting for familiar faces where you can take a photo of people you know and it'll recognize them and tell you when your buddy Ron comes over for pizza on Friday night. The daytime video is really good, and so is the nighttime view. You can choose to have an infrared grayscale image, which is very crisp and clear, but you can also choose to have color video. If you choose color video, it warns you that it'll have to turn on the lights. As a result, color video will shorten battery life. But that's not an issue for us since our doorbell is wired for power, so we chose color video. Like the Ring doorbell, we can answer the Eufy and chat with the people at the door. The audio coming out of the Eufy doorbell isn't as clear as it was with the Ring, and it sort of has some gaps in the speech. It's tolerable, but I'm not quite happy with that yet. I may talk to Eufy about this problem. Now, it does have a cool feature where you can pick from some canned responses, such as, "Leave the package at the door, please." It's not your voice, but it's fine. Where Ring requires a subscription of $30 per year per device to store video, the Eufy cameras have onboard storage. In fact, they pride themselves on not requiring a subscription. They give you a lot of ways to be able to store your video locally. The E340 doorbell comes with 8 gigabytes of internal storage, which isn't a lot. I like the idea of a video being stored by me rather than Amazon, but to be fair, most of the recordings will be Amazon packages anyway. Now, we do have another solution to storing the video, but that's part of part 2. Speaking of packages, you can define a zone on your porch where packages will likely be delivered, and the Eufy doorbell will send you notifications when it recognizes a package. We've already had that happen, and it was pretty darn cool. When we first got the Ring doorbell, we were shocked when our single Amazon Echo announced that someone was at the door. That was a cool integration from Amazon, but it seemed a little bit rude that it never asked me if that was okay to do. I did like it, so we kept it that way. We were kind of sad that with the new doorbell from Eufy, we would no longer hear the Amazon Echo say, "Someone's at the ding-dong." That's what we named it. Made us laugh. Well, I was poking around in the settings for the E340 doorbell, and under Indoor Chime, I found a setting called Alexa as chime. It says, "When the doorbell is pressed, your Amazon Echo will send an audible chime to announce that someone's at the door." Now, we seriously do use our Echo for nothing else, so I had to download and install the Alexa app to execute this. From there, it was easy enough to add Eufy security as a skill. Now, when the doorbell is pressed, our Amazon Echo announces, "Someone's at the dingy-ding-dong." Well, technically, she mispronounced it as dingy, meaning something gloomy and drab, but that makes us laugh even more than the real name. We keep hearing dingy-ding-dong. With the Ring doorbell, we also had one of their chime units to act as a ringer for the doorbell. Steve bought the $40 Eufy add-on chime that works with the E340 doorbell. Where the doorbell was a delight to connect to our network, the add-on chime was not. It's one of those 2.4 gigahertz devices that makes you connect to its network, but then it didn't tell us the password for itself until after it stopped trying to let us connect. I mean, it wasn't hell on earth, but it did take 3 tries and 2 engineers with advanced degrees to get it to connect to the network. Now, we've been laughing at ourselves for adding the add-on chime and the Alexa skill, because when the doorbell rings, our Apple Watches, our iPhones, our Macs, and my iPad all send us notifications. It's really rather comical. Now, the add-on chime has one other trick up its sleeve. It has a micro SD card slot in it. It doesn't come with a memory card, but if you add one, it will store video footage from the Eufy doorbell. Now, that measly 8 gigabytes into the doorbell isn't a problem with the 128 gigabyte micro SD card I added to the chime. Now, I've talked a few times on the show about Homebridge. This is software you can run on a local server that lets you add non-HomeKit compatible devices to HomeKit. I've been running Homebridge on my Synology for years. Using Homebridge, we now have in HomeKit our ambient weather station, our Daikin HVAC system, my Elgato key light, and our Ring outdoor cameras. Homebridge is tricky to set up, but once you've got the right plugin installed, it does make me happy. With Homebridge, you add plugins for the specific device family you want to add to HomeKit. The plugins usually aren't from the vendor, so your mileage may vary on how well they work. I installed a third-party Eufy security plugin and created what they call a child bridge. Our first indication that I'd succeeded was when someone rang the doorbell and the Apple TV at the time asked if I wanted to view it on the television. That was cool. But then when we looked at the Home app, I realized I had 2 of every indoor camera. The indoor ones were already HomeKit compatible, so using Homebridge, I had added them again. Now, because of some other shenanigans, I had to delete and reinstall the Homebridge plugin for Eufy security. Steve asked, could I pick and choose which cameras were put into HomeKit via this Homebridge plugin? And it turns out you can. In theory, that is. After rebuilding things, now the plugin isn't putting anything in HomeKit at all. But I'm going to tell you, I told you all that to also tell you that at this point, Steve and I are kind of reevaluating whether we want to put our Eufy cameras in HomeKit at all. The Eufy interface is pretty good, and by putting the cameras in HomeKit, we go from 2K video down to 1080p video, which is more important on our external cameras. We originally did it because we get free video storage with HomeKit Secure Video, but as you've been hearing, we have local video storage solution now. We also get to define zones of movement detection with the Eufy app, and we lose that with HomeKit integration as well. We're probably going to let things ride with the indoor cameras in HomeKit and all devices visible in Eufy for now. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the future you hear me say that I moved all of the indoor cameras out of HomeKit. Now, we may be in the honeymoon phase, but we're really happy with Eufy E340 dual camera doorbell. The video is great, having color video at night is excellent, and most importantly, we can actually see the packages on our doorstep. And to close out the story, if anybody was still worrying about him, listener Lynn's husband, Gary, bought an Apple Silicon 24-inch 4K iMac, and he's delighted with it. At CES last year, I interviewed Amos Miller about the Glidance device, and I'm going to talk to him again about it and the advancements they made. It was a very early prototype, I think, a year ago, and and now we've things are starting to come together. I'm hearing a lot about it on other shows. So tell us what's happened the last year and a half.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So just to remind your audience what Glide is first, maybe it's basically a new kind of mobility aid that uses autonomous driving technology to guide the way. And it sits on two wheels. The wheels are, you hold it about 2 feet in front of your leg, and you hold it you hold the handle, and you push the device forward, and the device begins to steer the way by steering its wheels. So that's kind of how it guides. It has 2 cameras on the top of the handle. The cameras give it the visibility of the ground around it to detect trip hazards and cliffs and so on. And the camera in front is used to plan the path and avoid and detect obstacles to guide you around them.
So I think you used to have cameras down on the base, but now you've got them up above. Is that right?
We used to have 1 camera on the top, and we had other sensors and radars around the base. We've changed our whole sensor system to really be able to handle trip hazards and cliff edges. Cliff edges means like curb edges and platform edges and the things of that nature more reliably.
So the cameras being up by the handle give you a much. You're going to find out sooner that you're going to fall off the cliff. It was down below. It was. You're almost there.
Treat that as obstacles. Yeah. So the camera at the top here it gives us a more reliable solution. So we made a lot of changes. So 2024 was very much a year of product design. We really did a lot of work on the device, on the mechanical and the electronics of the device. We tested it with probably about 1,200 people in the various settings.
Wow.
We changed the whole steering mechanism. The wheels are much bigger now to handle the terrain, like sidewalks with cracks and all the realities that we have in the real world, right?
Even the roads in Boston, maybe.
Yeah, even the roads in Boston, exactly. And so we're very confident now with the structural design of the device, and the autonomy is now starting to come together as well, where we have obstacle avoidance, and the cameras are really tracking the path to guide you on the path. And from there, our goal this year is to get to a point that you can actually use Glide as your primary mobility aid on the routes that you do today.
So if I remember correctly, you've got a path that you're planning and going on. I'm going to go down the street, I'm going to hang a left, but Glide is going to be giving you feedback into the handle to steer you around holes or small dogs or whatever obstacle might come in the way. Is that right? It's generally doing what you want, but it's steering you around what you wouldn't want to run into?
So there's 2 modes of use. The first one that we're developing is called freestyle navigation. That's when you're in charge of the route.
Oh, okay. Like what I described?
What you just described. And the other mode is directed navigation, where Glide is in charge of the route, where you've given it either a pre-recorded route that you've done before that you repeat, or when you give it a destination on a map. Okay? And that will come afterwards. We're first focusing on freestyle navigation. So that's when you're walking along a sidewalk and you want at the corner to take a left around the corner. Yeah, you basically tilt the device towards the left, and as the corner opens up, you can turn the corner and continue on your way. So you are the one who's guiding it, but it's keeping you safe, avoiding the edges, dealing with the crowds, and everything else that it has to do while you're walking.
So it's more of an assistant in that case.
I think about it as a fully fledged and viable mobility aid that you can do your routes in the same way that you would either with your Ken or your guide dog today, with the additional capabilities of detecting targets and guiding you to targets and so on. And once we have that baseline in place, we can then start to add all the other features like the connection to the map and connection to AI for description of scenes, and you can choose destinations and all of that good stuff. But first of all, we have to make sure that it is a viable and fully reliable mobility aid as a starting point.
So how does this work if you come to a flight of stairs? What would you just lift it and hold on to the handrail with the other hand?
Exactly. So it will first of all locate the stairs. So the camera will detect the stairs. Okay. If you chose the stairs as a target, it will guide you to the stairs. If it's, let's say, stairs going down, then it will come to the edge. It will apply the brakes and will tell you if there's a rail. Okay, and it will say.
How does it tell you?
There's a speaker in the device.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you can also connect it to a Bluetooth headset, so it can announce that it's approaching steps, and then it will apply the brakes and stop. Okay, and then you exactly like you say, you reach out, grab the rail. If you're going down steps, you can actually roll it down. The wheels are big enough, so you can roll it down slowly, or you can grab it by the stem, pick it up, and walk down the steps.
How much does it weigh?
It's currently 6 pounds. We're gonna
Too bad.
Not too bad. Yeah, you can try lifting it.
Let's see.
It's not. Yeah, this one is a little heavier.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm really strong though.
You are. I'm glad to hear. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the plan for this year. We have, we're excited we're working with our pioneers, the people who have pre-ordered the device. Then we'll start to roll it out to our pioneers later this year.
Oh, really?
Really make sure that the device is working really well. Get them set up on their routes and clean up any issues, customer support and onboarding and training and everything, and then we'll start to sell the device in early 26.
Wow. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I think I'm gonna actually take this for a whirl again.
I would love to hear how it goes.
Ready?
Jonathan Kalin is helping me get set up for my test drive here with Glide.
We're excited to have you give it a go. So Glide right now is in freestyle mode, which means you are setting the direction. Glide is not telling you where to go. You're pushing it, but it is guiding you and keeping you safe. So it's going to keep you away from obstacles like people, walls, doors, booths, and all the different things that are happening at the conference.
I'm going to purposely try to walk right at Steve probably is part of what I'll do. But I notice it's kind of twitching to me right now. Is it annoyed that I'm not getting going?
It's kind of like a dog. It gets a little excited. It wants to wag its tail.
That's exactly what it's like.
It's actually reacting a lot to things that are happening around it. So once you start moving, it should smoothen out a bit. And it's not picking a particular line. So what this version does is it's going to sort of bounce you between obstacles. So whereas the updated software that we're working on will actually keep you in a straight path between these different corridors and obstacles, this is just simply looking at obstacles around it, recognizing them and saying, we don't want to hit them.
Okay, I'm going to try to hit Steve here. Nope, it just went around Steve.
Sorry, Steve.
Okay, I want to go over here towards this box. I'm wandering off in the wrong direction. And it just keeps, oh, no, it just came to a complete stop. So don't go that way. That was a very sudden stop. I couldn't miss that.
Yeah, we're going to be working on the braking and figuring out the optimal amount to sort of ease on the brakes. And
I don't know, that seemed about right to me.
Well, you went straight into the wall, so we did want to give you an extra.
So let me just be ridiculous again and try to hit that. No, that time it just said, no, go around that. This feels very natural.
Mm-hmm.
The twitching is odd. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what is it annoyed? It's not annoyed with me?
It's not annoyed with you. Nope. It's just reading the environment around it and sort of taking in all the different moving factors like people and your own movement.
Okay.
And so this version is what we sort of call crunchy. And so it's a little bit more loud. The motor's a little bit louder than what we're going to have in the final version. But also, to some extent, some people really like to have that noise and that jerkiness because, in fact, it actually gives them a stronger signal that it's doing something, that it's turning, that it's braking. So it's a lot up to people's preference, and this is where we're working with the community to kind of understand that balance between the sort of smoothness and seamlessness and the actual kind of crunch and reaction and that type of thing.
I get the feeling you could get used to the crunch.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot. We've heard a lot of people who don't want us to uncrunch it.
Oh, now I stopped myself. Oh, it didn't stop me that time. It got a little close to that guy. All right, well, this is very cool. We should probably put it back on its charger. Thank you, Jonathan, for the test drive.
Thank you so much.
If people want to learn more about Glide, where would they go?
So the name of the company is Glidance. That's guidance with an L. with instead of the U. Okay, so glidance.io is our website. There's a lot of information on the website. The best thing to do, which we've been very excited with, is to register with us. First of all, you'll get regular updates from us, but you can also join our monthly Zoom calls and join the conversation, so to speak. Hear about updates, ask questions, engage in conversation about what this means. So we have a very active community following our work and providing a lot of feedback as we go. So yeah, glidance.io is the best place to go. The name of the company is Glidance. The name of the product is Glide. And the name of our users are gliders.
I love it. That's perfect. Thank you, Amos. Well, if you've been enjoying the shows we produce here for the last week, the last month, the last year, the last 20 years, I'd like you to consider helping the show financially. Making these shows certainly isn't free, and I don't even try to make a profit, but it is nice to break even. If you've got an extra couple of dollars a month, head on over to podfeed.com/Patreon and become our next hero of the podcast. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond. This is episode number 817 for June 25th, 2025, and I'm your host, Allison Sheridan. This week, our guest is Adam Engst, writer, editor, and publisher of the fabulous Tidbits Content Network. Hi, Adam.
Hello, Allison. You were sounding a little bit like an auctioneer there. It's like, you had it really going. You're right. It's going to be...
I do get excited when I'm talking to you. Well, this is going to start as a sad story. Maybe the whole thing's a sad story. But in late May, the browser company announced that they're discontinuing their groundbreaking web browser, Arc. As soon as I saw the headlines, my heart sank for people like Tom from Ontario, who first introduced the NosillaCast audience to Arc, and Adam, who's been one of the biggest fans of Arc. So, sad trombone to start, but do you want to maybe give us a brief overview of what Arc gave us? And then walk into what's happened.
Yeah, sure. So Arc really was the result of rethinking what it means to use a web browser. So previously, web browsers had basically been these kind of almost simple, dumb wrappers for web pages, and all the work went into making those web pages great. And yeah, you got some tabs, you got some bookmarks. Maybe there you could sync them between machines if you use Chrome or Safari, whatnot. But that was kind of it. And so what the browser company did is they sat down and said, what are the pain points that people have when using browsers? And then they just refactored the entire concept. So instead of bookmarks and tabs and across the top and, having this huge collection of these things that you can never find in some other window, Arc created they came up with the idea of pinned tabs, which you can collect together into folders. And you can also create workspaces, which are just different sets of pinned tabs. So this allows you to really have, and all the other big thing is these are all vertical down the left side, so that you can actually read them. You can see more than a couple. I mean, like top mounted tabs. I mean, what do you got? 6 before the names start getting shorter and shorter, and maybe 15 before all you're doing is looking at a useless icon. So
yeah, and you hope the icons are really good.
They're all useless, just worthless. I'm sorry. And then the problem is you get multiple tabs open to the same site. You don't even know which is which because it's just six Gmail icons. Not helpful. So with Arc, you get this really great kind of dashboard approach to your web browsing world. So personally, I have 3 workspaces. I have a personal workspace, I have a Tidbits workspace, and I have a Finger Lakes Runners Club workspace. It's the sort of 3 places where I get stuff done. And each one of them has its own completely independent set of pinned tabs. And a pinned tab is it's like a bookmark in the sense that it's permanent, but it's a tab in the sense that clicking it doesn't open something new each time. Like when you click a bookmark in Safari or whatnot, you get a new tab. And you click the bookmark again, you get another new tab. It just, it just keeps opening them. Whereas if I click on my WordPress, editor tab for when I'm posting a new Tidbits article, I just get the same one, the same page every time I click it. It doesn't open something.
So if it's already open,
it's already open. I switch to it. Right. If I click it, it hasn't been open in a while, it loads it. And so and it's always in the same place. So I'm never like scanning through the top, looking for that one that I used a couple days ago. The pinned tabs are always in the same place with the same names that I give them, the same custom icons that I give them. And so it's a very fast, easy way to just switch, click, boom, I'm at the right site. Switch, click, boom, I'm at the right site every time. And you can also, other great little things Arc did is they have an app, a tab switcher. So you hit Control Tab, and just like the app switcher in macOS, it lets you switch among the last 5 opened tabs. So you can, and hitting Command Tab quickly just switches you back and forth between the last 2, just like apps on the Mac. So it's really easy to move
Control
back
Tab
and
in
forth.
Safari flips between the tabs.
Honestly, I don't use Safari. I find Safari annoying enough that I'm not up to date on its features. So,
Okay.
But again,
And you can put in the number of the tab. You can do like Command 4 will get you to the 4th tab. And it includes pin tabs too.
No. I mean, I can, mine are arbitrary. I don't have to, it's not like I don't have to think about the 4th one or what might, this is literally the last 5 that I have open and that I can switch between really easily, whatever those last 5 might be. Other little things, I can option click any link to open it in a split view. So we get 2 pages side by side.
That's nice.
Or 3 or 4. And usually 4 is a little excessive, but 3 is occasionally useful. I can hit Command Option C to copy the URL of the frontmost page without any other hassle. Do you know how many times a day I do that? As I am trying to copy put in a link in a Tidbits article. Before that, I had to hit, click in the address bar and copy, or I had to hit Command L.
Well, Command L in every web browser will go to the URL bar and select it.
And then you have to hit.
So it's 2 keystrokes, Command L, Command C.
Right. It's twice as much work, tens of times a day or hundreds of times a day.
But you don't have to go up and click it.
You don't have to go up and click it.
With your mouse.
Right.
Precisely. In either one.
So I'm just saying, it's, again, you don't think about it. It's like, oh, it's only 2 clicks. Well, it is only 2 clicks, but it's also 100% more
Twice
work.
as many.
Yeah. I mean, it's
times how many times a day.
Right, precisely. So I'm not saying this is, I won't say this is a life-changing feature for most people, but it was for me. I mean, it's literally when I go to other web browsers, I am irritated that it doesn't have this.
You keep shaving this little pieces off until your life is smoother.
Quality of life. Okay. And that is really what Arc provided, was incredible quality of life. And so that's why when, as you say, you use the term discontinued, it's a little unclear what term the browser company actually is using surrounding this announcement. All they have really said is that they are building a new browser called DIA, D-I-A. They like these 3-letter words. So Arc, A-R-C, DIA, D-I-A. And what has really happened with Arc over the last 8 months, 10 months, something like that, is that it has received only Chromium engine updates and a very, very occasional bug fixes. So there have been no feature changes. So it was already
slowing way down?
Well, yeah. I mean, so back in the summer of last year, they had this podcast where they were, the browser company sort of prides itself on extreme transparency. They're always talking about what they're doing, and you get every engineers are constantly introducing their features and blah blah blah, which is great. I like it. But they had this 10-episode podcast about Arc, what they were going to do with Arc 2.0. And they end the podcast in September, I think the end of September. And there's no real definitive conclusion about what they're doing for Arc 2.0, but they've talked a lot about it. And so you really believe that Arc 2.0 is coming. And then a month later in October, there's some news article, I forget, The Verge, someone like that, where they talked to the CEO and he's like, yeah, we're doing a new browser entirely. And everyone's like, what the hell? You're going to stop doing, and so they have indeed moved all of their development efforts, other than this kind of basic maintenance mode, from Arc to DIA, and they've made claims about how Arc was mature, it didn't need any more features and things like that, which is a very odd statement coming from a company that was releasing new features literally weekly. I mean, Every
Yeah.
Thursday, there was a new version that had almost always non-trivial new features. So, it was an impressive level of development that suddenly just gets chopped.
Right, right. Well, and that's mature is one thing. Like I'm okay with something not changing. I've been using Downcast on the iPad forever, and when I heard about this app Arc not being developed, I'm like, I'm really happy that this app just works the same way it always has. It's fine. A mature app is not necessarily a bad thing, but 2 years in, that's a little quick to call yourself mature, anyway.
Well, it is, and I think, honestly, it's funny because the browser company does a great job of letting you see into their thinking and, seeming like super nice people you'd probably want to hang out with if you knew them in person, et cetera, et cetera. And they absolutely suck at interacting with customers. And I shouldn't say customers
Really?
because Arc has been free the entire time. Their direct support is weak to non-existent. They don't participate in forums. They don't have their own, user forum. For a very short time after I wrote my 7,500 word article about the first version of Arc, I had a contact at the company who responded to a couple of my messages, and then he left. Yeah, I got an auto reply saying he wasn't with the company anymore, and I have not gotten a response to anything since then. So, like, this is a company
Wow.
that they're publish only. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't go in the other direction, and
Transparent at what they're thinking, but don't take into
and they
account what you're thinking.
well, they do lots of surveys, but it's never clear that it makes any difference. You certainly never hear anything back. It's not a there's no conversation at all with this company, which, and that's their prerogative. Certainly larger companies, no conversation with either. My experience as a press person talking to small companies is usually they want to talk.
Yeah, that's
They're
why I like small
right.
companies.
They're interested in hearing your opinion. Like the MimeStream guy, Neil Chakari. Can't remember how to pronounce his last name offhand. But before MimeStream kind of went for its, when it was still in beta, he and I were having like daily conversations. Javari, I can't pronounce it. Have to look it up. But any event, so it was one of those things where, like, I felt like when I reported bugs, he cared about them. He was fixing them, and if it was, we had discussions about like what were the right ways to do things. When you did a search, should it search in the selected mailbox or should it search across all your email? And we actually went back and forth on that one for a while. I mean, I claimed that X was right, and then he said, well, yes, he'd been on the mail team, and he's like, yes, but in fact, we discovered in the mail team that people are confused by that, and I guess I can't argue with that, but here's why I think this, and that's the sort of thing where you feel like there's someone behind it who cares what their users think. They may not always agree, but they care, and that was what I didn't get from the browser company. Was very much
So the whole culture is different than what you would hope for in that.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much we are putting so much thought into this. We really think that we've got this down. And to an extent, like,
but we know best.
With Arc, they did great stuff. So, like, I'm not entirely disagreeing. But even with Arc, there were times like, why'd you do that? Like, this is annoying. This little feature here you got.
Maybe they were trying so hard to do stuff differently that they figured if they took a lot of input, it would just meld them back to doing stuff the way the other browsers did it.
Possibly. But ironically then, so that's a nice segue because this Dia browser frickin' looks like Chrome.
Oh, no.
It's got top-mounted tabs. There's no pin tabs. It does have a few nice features from Arc. It has the tab switcher. It has the Command Control C for copying stuff. It has split view. And I think that's it. Otherwise, it is bog standard Chrome, with one big exception we can talk about later. But the point being is what they said, and this is I was frustrated by this. They're swinging for the fences. In other words, with Arc, they've never said how many users they have. They know, but they're not saying. Estimates based on various things that they have said that surround this number put it at somewhere in the mid hundreds of thousands to maybe 1 million, which is not too
Okay.
shabby. I mean, don't get me
Right.
wrong, I'd like to have 1 million users. When I was publishing Take Control, I would love to have had 1 million readers. So,
Right.
but they want to be mainstream. They want to be on hundreds of millions of machines. They basically want to compete
Okay.
with Chrome. And
Let me ask, that makes me wonder, what is their business model? Because you said Arc was free.
they're VC at the moment. They have no business model. So it's
Huh.
all VC.
Okay.
And so that was another question, right? So what is going to be the business model based on that? And what was funny is Arc was always free, but they had people begging them to pay for it. I was like, I would pay for this in a heartbeat. I would have paid for it in a heartbeat. I still would pay for it in a heartbeat, although probably not unless they develop it again. And
by the way, by VC, he means venture capitalist,
Yeah,
in case you
yeah.
didn't.
So, rich people who've given you money and have some opinions about how they're going to make more money because of that.
Right.
So yeah, so they're swinging for the fences. They want to be like Chrome. I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't know offhand what the user base of something like Firefox is. But is Firefox on hundreds of millions of devices? Maybe. You could search while I'm talking. But that's a really, really big goal to have. And what they said, and this is probably not entirely wrong, is that if you want to reach that many people, you cannot have a large, what they call novelty tax. Like, how is it going to be hard for someone to switch to your browser? And Arc, with its pinned tabs and workspaces and whatnot, it required explanation. It was not an easy switch.
Oh, right.
Now,
Right.
if you're a power user, you were willing to make the switch because you could see what it was going to do for you. It was going to make a big difference. But everyday users, no, probably not going to make that much of a difference. They probably don't care because they're not even really entirely sure what a tab is anyway. So did you find out Firefox?
Well, I'm trying to figure out. The hard thing is to take it to be desktop.
Oh, right.
So I'm not quite sure what this one. One of my found here says as W3C counter or W3 counter says 69% Chrome, 15% Safari, 3.7% Edge, and 2.8% Firefox. So Firefox is wee teeny,
yeah,
compared to the others.
But what is that?
I suspect that doesn't include iOS, because that starts to swamp. All of a sudden, you see Safari pop way up.
Ask it for raw numbers too. See if it can
Here's desktop browser market share worldwide. Okay, we are in May of 2025, 65% Chrome and Opera 2.75, Firefox 5.9, Safari 7.9, and Edge 13.6.
Right. So again, but what are those? Will anything give you raw numbers? Because that the browser company said they want to be in hundreds of millions of devices, which will probably be mobile too. So it will not just be desktop. Because they do have Arc has a version for iPhone called Arc Search, which is fabulous because what it does is it syncs all your pinned tabs. So on your phone, you have access to exactly everything that you have access to on your Mac.
But it's WebKit. Of course,
WebKit.
because it's on iOS.
WebKit. So, which doesn't make it doesn't really make any difference. The only difference is that you don't get Chrome extensions you have on the desktop. So, but you wouldn't have those on iPhone anyway.
Yeah, I don't see raw numbers, at least in Stack Counter.
So
I can keep poking around.
So in any event, it was a big goal, and this really created a situation. Here we go. The AIs claim 142 million device users worldwide. For
142 million for Firefox?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, so this is actually doing the multiplication. 5.56 billion users total worldwide, and Firefox is 2.5% of the market share. That's how it's getting it. But so the point being that they want to be bigger than Firefox, which I mean, good for them. I'm not claiming this is a bad goal. The only problem is it's a goal which you have to design in very different ways to meet that goal, and you create this loyal following of, call it 1 million, we'll be round numbers, call it 1 million users. And then you're basically telling them, so sorry, we actually don't care about you. Like,
Sawed off, and we're going to go over and do this.
Precisely. You are not
You don't
our
matter.
target audience anymore. And so
now they've just lost all of those people, or let's say 75% of those people, right? And is there a gap between ARC and when Dia shows up?
Well, Dia's around. Dia's available now. At least for ARC users, it is. Which is,
it is. Is it in beta though?
Yeah. It's barely. It was the first version I downloaded said it was alpha. Now it says it's beta. But yeah, it's very early beta. And so.
And is ARC gone yet?
No. Well, see, the thing is, their claim is that ARC is never going away.
Oh, I thought it was.
No. It's not. That's why I said it's not discontinued. It's
in active development.
The closest term I've come up with is really this is maintenance mode. Where
do you think it'll be security updates?
Yes, because that's what they're doing the Chromium updates for. Is mostly a security, right? Because Chromium updates constantly, every week for that kind of stuff. So yeah, ARC is still getting weekly updates, but they're just new versions of the engine. And, and maybe they would fix bugs, but they certainly haven't fixed any of the ones that I reported that are still outstanding. So, like, for instance, if you try to open a split view from a link in Google Docs, it opens an extra split view. So you click once, you were supposed to thinking you're going to get 2, suddenly you've got 3 and one of them's empty. It's not a huge bad bug, don't get me wrong, but I reported it, a year ago.
But that's a pretty major.
Right. It's just like, this is wrong. You should fix it. But not fixing it.
So if they aren't going to be doing the groundbreaking that they did in ARC, and they want to be like Chrome, so they're making it look like Chrome, what are they offering that would make somebody use this instead of Chrome?
That's the big question. And their claim, and I think this is actually not wrong, is that the future is having an AI chatbot associated with everything. And so there's a sidebar in Dia you can open with a button click, and it's a chatbot right there. So you can talk to about anything you want, of course. But what's kind of neat is that it knows the context of the current page. You can even tell it. You can even have it know the context of multiple open tabs. So, a simple one is, you're reading something and you want to get some more information about something in the article. You can even select some of the text and say to the chatbot, "Tell me about this." And it will know that you've selected the text, and it will do the chatbot thing, web searching model, basing on its model. They haven't said a huge amount about what models they're using behind the scenes. I'm sure it's, OpenAI, Anthropic, some combination thereof, with tweaking. I'm sure there's something along those lines. And
so now I had a really smart guy on Chit Chat a little while ago who taught us about how you can select some area on a web page and right click and ask for it to copy the link with a highlighted section and do a deep link. You could do that and paste it into any chatbot and do the same thing. It's just not in the same window?
Yes, it's not in the same window. And it's not quite the same thing because most chatbots would not understand the concept of the selection. So they would just see the page. A chatbot would have to be tweaked specifically to understand this is a text fragment link, and what I'm actually asking about is the fragment part of it. And don't get me wrong, I haven't tried this. It's possible they do it, but I would be surprised.
Well, I'm trying it right now. I selected a section of one of your pages.
So the other thing is
it's doing the whole page.
Doing the whole page, yeah, okay. So the other thing is that you can really point it at multiple tabs. So you can say that uses the @ like you type @ and then it gives you a list of open tabs and history items and things and bookmarks and stuff like that, and you could sort of add these things as context, and then you can have it work on all of them. So the example that I used in my article, which was not unlike one they had used, was you're looking for someplace via Airbnb, and there's like 3 or 4 possibilities, And so you tell Dia, use these four as context, and now tell me which one is best for this activity. And being a chatbot, it will go, okay, so the activity that you want to do involves this local resource or location or whatever. So one of the ways that I will evaluate these four things is by proximity to this location. Plus, I'll build a chart that tells you what their cost, how they compare on cost and amenities and whatever else. I mean, it's a prompt, right? You can ask it for anything you want.
Gotcha.
And so,
Right.
so it actually is kind of a useful way to just like, I've got all this stuff open in multiple tabs. Tell me how they compare. Talk to me about this group of things, which if you think about it,
Interesting.
fairly difficult to do otherwise. I mean, not impossible in a chatbot. You can copy all the links and feed them all to ChatGPT or Claude and then say, go do
Right.
this. But it would require more work. The other thing that they've added, which is it's a little bit cooler than I'd initially quite said and quite realized, is they call them skills. And what a skill is a canned prompt. So let's say you do this kind of comparison between things regularly. You could write a prompt that is your comparison and then make it into a skill called /compare. And then you would be able to, say /compare. And it would run whatever your comparison prompt was against all those collected things without you having to type out the entire comparison prompt each time. Or you can have a skill, which I did yesterday, which actually was kind of successful, I have to admit. I said, well, here, I can actually pull it up so I'm not making this up. It was
like you normally do, just making stuff up.
I'm just making stuff up, I assure you. So one of the examples would be like to get the day's news. I'm like, well, I don't really want to get the day's news. I don't approve of news. But I said, search the web for news from the last 3 days related to Apple. Sites like Daring, Fireball, Pixel Envy, Mac Rumors, 9to5Mac, Apple Insider, Michael Tsai's blog, and more. Deduplicate articles to choose only the best, generally original, coverage of any particular topic and give me a list of the top 10 in order of importance and likely impact for everyday Mac users. For each one, summarize the story, provide the date of coverage, provide a list of source sites with links to the associated articles, and then build a coverage recommendation. For that, pretend you're a Tidbits reader who's read everything Tidbits has published and say if and why an article seems like it might be worth covering as A, a link added to the comments on an existing Tidbit article, B, a new extra bit that points to the original article, or C, is a larger standalone article. It's fine to include mention of beta releases, rumors, and deals, but never recommend that Tidbits cover such news because I don't do it. Note that Tidbits is very picky, so only a very few topics will pique Adam Engst's interest for coverage, and it's fine to say that an article isn't worth Tidbits' time. That's kind of a honking prompt, right?
Wow.
And so I can type /today, and I get that. So literally like, car makers push back on CarPlay Ultra, iOS 26 Beta 2 new features and Apple Music updates, AirTag 2 rumors, Porsche reaffirms commitment to CarPlay Ultra, iOS 26 brings crossfade and auto mix to HomePod, iPhone to iPhone accessory charging via USB-C. Apple Sports app adds tennis scores personalization. It's like this is
question in that. I'm real curious. I'm just real curious how it, in that short of a period of time, immediately consumes everything that Tidbits has ever had published, and then makes it a subset of that. That one sounds surprising.
So it probably isn't doing that for real, of course. But the point being is, I'm telling it to think like it is, and so it would be. You can't see behind the scenes, right? But on the other hand, Tidbits is very heavily represented in language models. Right?
I would imagine there's a lot of language there.
We got a lot of language. I actually did very early in the days of ChatGPT. The Washington Post somehow did an article about you could it was a checker, so you could put in your URL and see how highly you ranked in the training model for amount of data. And Tidbits outranked a whole lot of much more popular sites because we have a lot of data going back a long time. And so it's like maybe it's just in the model. Like, like that's all my data's in the model. I'm pretty certain.
It already knows.
So in any event, it's like it's not doing a terrible job there. And that's something which that is a really non-trivial prompt. And interesting, I tried the same thing and it was not quite as successful in ChatGPT. The same prompt. And I don't quite know why. Again, these things are black boxes, so you never know what's going on. But so that was an interesting thing where I was like, oh, and so it will give me this, right? It's basically giving to me in a page.
This is Dia still
doing this,
about.
and then I can keep talking to it about that stuff, right? I was like, well, okay, let's talk about these. I don't do rumors, but let's talk about the Apple Sports app. Did the Apple Sports app add anything about track and field, which is the only sports I care about? And so, it's going to go out and look at this and come back with something. No, it does not currently cover track and field events. So, okay, I'm not interested now. Like, again, I could have gone around to Apple's news release about it or whatever came out. But the fact of the matter is that that was my criticism. And I'm, when I first wrote about the app, and I'm not going to write about it again until it includes this. So it did peg like this is not worth Tibbets's coverage. So
So as a research tool, that sounds really terrific.
Yeah, and that's
I
really
guess
what
that's
it's about.
what we're often doing,
right? I mean,
right?
On the web, you're looking stuff up, right? You're trying to learn about something. If you're going on the web to just like I don't know, read Facebook or something. Even there, you could probably, select some stuff in the in a Facebook post and say, "Tell me more about this," and learn.
Maybe what you could really do is, could you show me my Facebook feed in chronological order?
Oh no, come on. There's limits to what technology can do. That is not possible. I am certain chronological order is beyond any computer's capability when it comes to Facebook.
It's funny, when you first said it's got AI built into it as this chatbot, my first reaction was, how do you step on anything that doesn't have AI built into it now? I'm kind of looking for this newfangled app that doesn't have any AI in it, that I could just get something done, I'm working on a Screencast Online video that includes something called Plain Text Editor. You can type in it. You can't even make text bold, Adam. You can type. That's
you
what
could
it
probably
does.
write one of those yourself using AI in about 10 minutes. I just ran across this. It's some new literary magazine, which you interact with via Telnet.
No,
I was
fun.
oh, I have to read this. And even better, like the stories change, like because you have to Telnet to them.
Oh, wow.
It's
That's pretty funny.
I mean, my degree is in this sort of stuff, like hypertextual fiction. So I'm all over this in my copious spare time. Meaning I've only looked at it once, but nonetheless, I was like, this is so cool. People who are like, we're going beyond old school.
I love it. Hey, so my overall feeling here is much less depressed than I was for you when I first read about ARC being discontinued.
Right. So ARC really isn't going anywhere. The problem is that, and this is kind of I don't know if you saw the article I just posted, half an hour ago.
Of course I read it.
So there's this issue,
right? Wait, no, an hour ago, no.
So there's this issue of, what do you do or think or react, or how do you react when an app you use ceases to receive development, or at least useful development? I mean, ARC is receiving some level of development attention, but it's, they've been very clear they're not going to give it new features. And like, to what extent is that a problem? And there's probably really different opinions about that. I mean, as you say, sometimes you have an app, you don't want it to ever change, but at the same time, you want it to keep working everywhere. You want to be able to get a new Mac and have it keep working. And at some point, that's not going to happen. And if an app is just taking energy and development time and resources, why is a developer going to keep doing it indefinitely? Like it's just
Right.
wasted effort and wasted resources. So, so like at some point you just know it's going to go away for real. And so there's
Mhm.
that sense of as soon as you see the writing on the wall, at least for some of us, there's the feeling like, okay, I need to switch to something else now that has a future. Like
Right.
we're betting on these things having futures. And when they don't
I
have
think so.
futures, that's a problem.
I think there's really two vastly different groups of people, and you and I sound like we're in the same camp that Dan Morin said once, "I quit an app before it quits me." And that really stuck with me. So when iThoughts, which was my favorite mind mapping application of all time, I tried millions of 5, and had decided on that one, and I had hundreds and hundreds of mind maps in it. And then the developer just one day went, "Yeah, I'm done," and he just stopped. He said it's going to keep working, but so long and thanks for all the fish. And I immediately started looking for a replacement and found one that it's okay. I'm all right, but I'm still sad. But I wasn't going to keep using that, even though it's still functioning. I could use it today if I wanted to. I could use iThoughts, but I'm not gonna because I don't want to be. I don't want to quit it. I want to quit it before it quits me. But the other group of people is like, I'm gonna hold on to using my FireWire drive until Apple takes it out of the OS
Cold dead fingers.
soon,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. No, it's really true. And
Because I hate change.
and right. And so, the problem is that and part of the reason is that I think those of us who are I'm going to quit the app before it quits me is that we know that it will quit you at the worst possible time in the worst possible way, and you will probably be left without your data or at least crying. That
Right.
like it's not going to be good it's not going to go
Right.
gracefully.
You don't get to spend a long weekend testing and figuring out what your strategy is going to be and everything. It's going to happen right when you need it. The oh shoot, I was going to say the other big problem is if you wait a long time to switch, then nobody's switching right when you do it, and all of the advice is gone.
Yeah.
Right when iThoughts died, one of my most popular articles was, okay, what am I going to use instead? And all these people like, yeah, me too. What are we going to do without iThoughts? What are we going to do? And I got all these people helping me saying, hey, try this, different applications that they thought might be a good substitute. And so, switching off of some weird old drive format or something, right then, or your favorite database app, right then everybody's figuring out how to move their data. But later they're not going to. Oh, yeah.
The people who are still switching from Eudora, I don't even remember how the app works. Couldn't begin to tell you.
Yeah.
I was a world expert on Eudora for many years. And right, the longer you wait, the harder it gets. And that is a real truism. And so no, the article that I just published is I stumbled upon this really great little task management app called Sorted. And I really liked the way Sorted was working. iPhone and Mac synced between them, blah blah blah. I'm thinking this is great. I am so buying this app. It was like $35.99 for the Mac and the iPhone, a little high, but okay, fine, whatever. I really like this app. And then they had this extended trial thing that sort of got things mixed up between the two. And so I sent support mail about this problem, and I didn't hear back. And then I started looking, and I started, let's go check the support site. Oh, look, the support site has been closed due to lack of payment. And then I started looking harder, and the Mac app hadn't been updated in 2 years, and the iPhone app was last updated 8 months ago, and the last social media posts were from 2023, and I'm like, this is a bad sign, right?
So they took your money long after they stopped.
They didn't take my money because I didn't ever have to get a chance to pay them. I mean, part of the thing that was wrong was it wouldn't let me buy the bundle. I was like, I want to buy the bundle, and it won't let me do that. And so it's like, I mean, I would even have considered paying them if it had really worked, but the thing that wasn't working was the thing that I really cared about, which was the syncing between the two. So it's like, like there's a situation where if you were a loyal Sorted user since, I don't know, 2016 or whatever, you'd be pretty upset, but you'd be able to kind of do it over time. But am I going to get started with that one now? No, I'm really not.
No.
I mean, it's just like there's no future, and so it's really this question of what is the future, and there's no guarantees. Even the biggest of companies, drop products unceremoniously. But there is that belief that we users are owed some level of future in exchange for our money, our loyalty, or whatever. And that's what Arc users aren't getting. They aren't getting a future. If Arc is maintenance mode, whatever you want to call it, let me tell you, no one is putting effort into making sure their stuff works with Arc. Right? I mean, 1Password,
right. So it's not going to get
Grammarly. Better. Grammarly was, we don't test with Arc. Well, I can't argue with you. Why would you? It's a stagnant browser. You should not try. I would not recommend that you test with Arc even. So like doing this has consequences, even if you claim that, we're going to keep it going. No, you're not. I mean, like if it's not under active development, it is not a going concern. It has no future.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame them for wanting to do something that's going to be bigger, but it's still.
Well, so here's what I
feel like we were loyal, right. and they let us down.
And what we don't know is like how big the VC is. So, for instance, boy, if let's just say you could charge $25 for a copy of Arc, and you can get 1 million users, $25 million bucks, and people would probably pay that on a yearly basis. I mean, Arc users really, really like Arc. That's not bad money, but it's not probably VC level money. I mean, VCs can want, they want to swing for the fences. You make money as a VC on the hits. You invest in, a bunch of companies, most are going to fail. But the ones that hit so big that it makes up for, the other, 80%, 90% that fail. That's how VC more or less works. Don't quote me on the numbers. It's not far off than that. It really is. It's like, it's like baseball where, the best of the hitters don't do very well. Or
investing in a new drug.
Right, precisely. So you spend millions and millions and millions of dollars. Oh, no, it actually doesn't work, So I get that part of it, but simultaneously, there's this internet marketing guy, Seth Godin, who makes a very strong case that it is a much better business in many cases to have a small number of very loyal users who want to give you money than a very large number of people who barely know who you are and don't really want to give you money. So,
that's an interesting.
I mean, they're going to have to give DIA away for free.
Diagrams.
Right. I mean, you're going to have to give DIA away for free. There's no question about that. Like, you can't hit hundreds of millions unless you are giving it away for free. Not possible. Right. And then if you're going to make money, I mean, they've sort of said, there'll be some level of upsell, it's like you want it to do something more for your profession. Like there'll be, like a medical pack and it'll know more about medical stuff or whatever. I'm like, maybe, but it sure feels to me like you're kind of making this up as you go. And with Arc, you had a pretty good little business going, and you could have kept that going if you had basically not told them all that you don't like them anymore. just not so into you anymore.
You don't matter.
Yeah, you don't matter. And I mean, and they've got some architectural issues too. Like the Arc, the architecture underneath it was, it was creaky. It was too slow for what we wanted, and we're re-architecting DIA in a different way. It's going to be faster. Okay, fine, no problem. So what you just say is, DIA will have, all the features from Arc that we believe are the most important. Because Arc has some features that you're just like, really? That's kind of out there. They have these things called boosts that allow you to modify how websites look. And they put a lot of effort into it. And I'm like, who cares? Like who spends so much time on a website? I mean, yeah, people do. I know, some small numbers. But, that they care about being able to change the background color on this website all the time. Whatever.
Maybe for accessibility?
It was for being clever. And yeah, back in the day, if you spent a lot of time on Twitter or Facebook, you could reskin it basically. But the fact of the matter is, like, that doesn't need to come over probably. That was a very, very niche feature. But things like the pinned tabs and the sidebars and the workspaces and whatnot, that is like the core of what Arc makes.
The
Arc.
reason.
Right. And so they could have said,
but that's not in DIA.
Not yet anyway. They've sort of said, oh, we might be bringing some stuff over, but we don't know what.
You would think you could have brought the Arc people along with the core features and do this new cool stuff.
And it's not even rocket science. I mean, you have DIA start up in, I'm pretending to be Chrome mode. And hey, you've got an AI here, right? You could have it even say, would you like me to show you a really cool way to work that will make you faster? I mean, you've got an AI that can do this. You can actually tell it how to introduce the new features in your app to the user. So over time, you could have said, hey, by the way, I just noticed that you copied something using this silly little technique of, doing two things. Did you know you can do that in one step? And so
will that be a little bit like Clippy though?
You're already talking to it.
I noticed you're starting a list.
No, but you're already talking to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so really, it can literally be fit into conversations. Again, this is all theoretical. Who knows what they plan to do? But the point is that they could have started it off in the, this is going to look like Chrome and it's all completely familiar and all that, and then, basically revealed the Arc level features. But if you were an Arc user, you just go into the settings and click, I'm an Arc user, and poof, it looks like Arc. Right? You don't have to go through all that because you know what you want. And so, yes, that's how you
would have to implement that stuff.
Well, yeah, but they've in theory already got the code, right? I mean, they have to re-implement it in whatever their new system is, but it's not like they have to come up with it from scratch. It's porting.
Right.
So, I'm not saying it's trivial. I don't understand
why you wouldn't do that.
Right. Precisely. You've got these great features. People loved them. Why wouldn't you make them at least optional in your new app? And they did with a couple of them, but not the big
why don't you give them some feedback on that? I bet they'll be really receptive to listening to you and write back to you and thank you.
Probably. How many times I've already told them this in surveys where they've asked for my opinion? So,
they do surveys. That's even worse.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, and they ask for your name and email. Like, I'm totally willing to talk. Hey, you can find me. So like
I have some content out there,
right? And so that's what's frustrating is that like it would be one thing if they were just going in a completely different direction. We pivoted the company and now we're doing audio software or something like that. Like, okay, I get that. You just, I'm unhappy, but it makes sense that you've stopped. But we're doing something exactly like what we did before, except way worse, except in one way. Well, that's a big win.
Learning nothing.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, I was in danger of thinking that you were going to end this on a happy note, but we've managed to make it into a full-fledged rant, Adam.
There we go.
I do feel for you.
I didn't hit my microphone too many times.
By the way, I was doing some searches to see whether you could get what, there used to be a plugin called tree-style tabs for, I think it was Firefox. It would give you the horizontal tabs and left sidebar, and I was looking whether there was anything like that for Safari. When somebody on Reddit went, well, just open the little sidebar and you can see your tabs.
Yeah,
I didn't know it had that.
Safari had
but you can't hide
tabs.
the other.
Yeah. I actually did an article some time ago about vertical tabs because a number of browsers have them now. The vertical tabs are a help, but that's not the same as pinned tabs also. Because if you just keep getting this infinite
pinned tabs,
list,
but I don't understand.
Yeah, right.
They have pin tabs.
Pin tabs in Safari never really quite work the way I want, in the sense of like if you close it, so in Arc, if I'm on a pinned tab and I close it and then I go back to it, it goes back to the pinned tab. I can't get rid of it with treating it. Closing the window, so to speak, does not delete the tab in any way, shape, or form. You also can't really corrupt them. So you can in that tab you can navigate all the hell over the place, but you can always get back to what the tab really is, sort of your origin point.
I think you might want to look at pin tabs again. That is exactly what it does.
I will have to look, but every time I've looked at them, I've found them irritating in ways where no, it does not actually operate the way I want. Plus, again, Safari doesn't have workspaces, so I mean, it would have way
That's
too many
different, but-
tabs in what I'm doing. But Safari, the other problem in the past has been that it didn't do very well with Chrome extensions. Most of the extensions I'm using now are cross-platform, so that wouldn't be an issue.
I'm sorry, you're right. The thing I use it for is XKPassWD, the password manager thing or password creator thing that Bart wrote. But yeah, I just tried it on podfeet.com. I set it to podfeet.com. I selected blog posts on podfeet.com, and then I closed it. When I hit it again, it was still on blog posts.
Right.
That's not what you want.
Right.
You want it to go back to the beginning. Yeah, that's weird.
Right. Because
not right.
because this is what, and in Arc, you can basically say, you can at any time replace the pinned tab with the current URL, or you can edit the URL specifically. So for instance, I have a pinned tab to this Google Sheet that's a rehab diary for my knee injuries. And so it gets pretty long. And so I periodically want to replace that tab with a link to the current cell. So I can jump to, cell 300, to row 300 rather than be up the top. And so you have full control over when you click a pin tab, you want to know exactly where you're going. You don't ever want it to be a question. And it needs to have permanence, but allow flexibility as well. And there's a ton of other features in Arc too. The other really big one that I like is when you and this is optional, but I really like it, is that when you click a link from an external app, it opens in what Arc calls a little Arc window, which is just a window devoted to that page,
like a site-specific browser. Ish?
Yes and no. More the point is it doesn't have all the other stuff in it. The point of a little Arc window is that you close it or you click a button to put it into Arc for real in one of your workspaces.
Okay.
And because most of what you click from an external link, you're like looking at and getting rid of, right? It's view and close.
Sure.
View and close.
Right.
And so this way you don't end up with those tabs cluttering your view. Because the whole window is cluttering your view. So when you're done with it, you put it away. So it encourages this cleanliness of behavior that is really not, even in Dia, which like I'm used to this now. As soon as I click a tab, but I switch away from it, I will, that tab will be there for the end of time because I have to manually go through and find all the extra tabs and close them. Whereas when it's a little Arc window, you put it away as soon as you're done with it because it's blocking everything. So
I see.
And if you do want to keep it, you just click a button saying open in one of the workspaces. And so that moves it over to Arc for later usage if you want to keep it around. I do that maybe 5% of the time. Most of the time, it's like, you see an article in some email, link in email, you open it, look at it, close it, move on.
That's a behavior thing. Sounds like you have good behaviors.
Well,
I'd still leave them all over the place.
Well, but no, you wouldn't because you actually literally can't see your email behind it.
You can't move them out of the way,
well, you
or
can,
move the other window
but why
forward?
would you? You have this big honking window that's covering a third of your screen. After you're done reading it, there's nothing to do but close it, really. As opposed to,
you have to actively say put it into Arc versus
because when it opens as a tab in another browser, in your main browser window, if you're using Safari or Chrome or whatever, there's no penalty to leaving it there. Oh, maybe I want to come back to this. You won't, but you'll leave it there. This is why people end up with hundreds of open tabs. This is a known thing. And very few people are really good at keeping their tabs down to, the 5 or so you can actually use in a top-mounted tab interface.
I get it. All right. Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I hope you find a way to live with your irritation. Well, no, there had to be a little kick in the teeth. Too.
I had enough kicks in the teeth. Just wait till you see me next week.
Oh, that poor choice of words. All right, Adam, I appreciate you coming on. If people want to find everything about Adam, all you need to do is go to tidbits.com and read, 30 years worth of content
35,
there, right?
like the first 5 went pretty quick. So, I was more brief back then. I either was or I wasn't. I was either more brief or I went really long. There are some issues of Tidbits that actually were one article that went across 3 issues, that kind of thing. So,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thanks for coming on again. We'll talk to you again soon.
nice to be here. Thanks so much, Allison.
Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeet.com anytime you like? You can send me those recordings you're going to do for me so I have less work to do to try to cram so many shows in when I'm taking some vacations. If you have a question or a suggestion, you can also send it to that address too. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. You can follow me on Mastodon at podfeet.com/Mastodon. If you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, you can go to podfeet.com/YouTube. If you want to join the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all the other lovely No-Silla castaways. You can support the show at podfeet.com/Patreon, like I talked about earlier, or if you want to do a one-time donation, we love those too. Podfeet.com/donate lets you do it with the Apple Pay or any credit card. Or you can use PayPal if you like it. Where do you think it is? Podfeet.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic No-Silla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.